How often should you email your following? Find out on today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by ProWritingAid. Save thousands of dollars on an editor by using the best tool in the business at servemaster.com/ProWritingAid.
Are you tired of dealing with your boss? Do you feel underpaid and underappreciated? If you want to make it online, fire your boss and start living your retirement dreams now, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Serve No Master Podcast, where you'll learn how to open new revenue streams and make money while you sleep. Presented live from a tropical island in the South Pacific by best-selling author Jonathan Green. Now, here's your host.
My continuing effort to find the perfect time to record. It's early morning now. The sun has just risen. So we'll see if we can get a little bit of enough quiet to do a good session. There's all this sand around on the ground on our sidewalk, so I'm not going to wear my slippers because those were making a bunch of noise. I'm going to try and find somewhere quiet to stand. It's just we'd had a big rainstorm last night. We haven't had a chance to clean it up yet. That's what happens when you do a early in the morning recording. But I want to really spend some time with you guys, and as always, I'm in the garden. I'm going to go from downstairs to upstairs. Maybe it'll be a little bit quieter, you never know. As they say, hope springs eternal. The number one thing I hear from people who are new to emailing, this is the number one restriction, this holds us all back, is the sentence, I don't want to annoy my followers. And that's where I want to start today, because that's a really legitimate concern in some social situations. We all live in fear of being annoying because that's a social taboo. But how do we know when we're annoying? What you're doing is actually guessing. And one thing I learned is that everyone's definition of too much is different. I remember another marketer that I know a few years ago, almost a decade ago actually, when I was starting out, we were at similar levels, and he would send out as many as 13 emails a day to his audience. And one of my friends met one of his followers at a conference, was actually able to speak to one of these people in person. And the guy said, oh, I read all 13. I wish he would send 15. Some people just love that content. If you think about it, if your emails are good enough, they're never annoying. How many times a day do you go and check your favorite news source or your favorite blog looking for something interesting? As long as the content is interesting, as long as it's something you want to read, then you don't mind getting it multiple times per day. I actually just unsubscribed from an email list this morning. Something that some people do, and this to me is really annoying, is when you are a JV partner and you get on the JV list, they'll add you to the customer list as well. So I start getting a barrage of the wrong email. Instead of emails about upcoming promotions, they keep trying to sell me stuff. That's annoying. If you sign up for one list and someone puts you on another list or sends you the wrong emails, it's one of the most annoying and worst things that can happen. So if you don't manage expectations, you can email once and it's super annoying. The most critical thing is to understand what we like and don't like. If you're just sending sales email with no value, with no content, ignoring people's replies to you, then you're going to get a lot of annoyed people. But the problem isn't the email frequency. That's the smallest part of your problem. The problem is the content itself, the emails you're sending, the messaging, and how you're not responding to people. Being annoying is part of this business. If you send out an email to 100 people, 10 of them are going to be annoyed no matter what you say. There are all these different things that people can do to annoy us, and they don't even realize they're doing it. You ever been annoyed by someone just because they called you at the wrong time? You were in the middle of doing something else, and so you took it out on them? Same thing happens in email. Every once in a while, events all come together. They conspire to annoy me. And then an email comes in at that worst moment, and a phone call comes at that worst moment, so that person gets punished. We don't need to worry about being annoying, okay? Because that's not your job. Your job is to write the best emails you can, give as much value as you can, and then to make a living. Which brings me to the 8-year it. Last year, I was in a group coaching call in one of my friends' programs, because sometimes I guest in other people's coaching programs. And because I'm more of an emailer than my friend is, one person said, hey, Jonathan, here, I have a mailing list of this many people. I'm going to send, this is going to be the first email I send them. And I said, okay, seems okay. He goes, I've never emailed these people before. I said, well, how long have some of them been on your mailing list? And he said, 8 years. I want you to think about that for a minute, okay? If I go back 8 years in time, living in another country, I'm dating someone who's not my wife, I don't have any children yet, I couldn't tell you what I'm interested in at that. I just can't tell you. I do not know. If I signed up to a mailing list 8 years ago and they email me today, I'd be like, I don't know who this is. And it could have been something I was so excited by at the time. Think about that. If your audience is 20 and you send them an email, it's about when they were 12, their interests are going to be totally different. Most people's interests change dramatically over the course of 8 years. Even if you were to take me from right now to 8 years into the future, it can be totally different. Having kids who are young is very different than having kids who are teenagers. The things that are on my mind, the way I approach my business, all of it changes and evolves. So this massive mistake we make is we're so hesitant to email people that we wait so long and we don't email them and they forget who we are. And that's the most dangerous thing that can happen. There's nothing more dangerous than sending an email when someone doesn't know who you are. Because that's what all of the spam and GDPR and compliance laws are actually trying to prevent. Sending emails to strangers without their permission. And if someone doesn't remember giving you permission, it becomes like that old saying, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Or if a tree falls in the woods and no one hears it, does it make a sound? And that's a really important question, because if someone gives you their consent and then doesn't remember and then you send them an email, do you still have consent? Well, when they click unsubscribe and then this was a spam email, I don't know who this was, the answer is, I guess you didn't have that consent, because they can say they don't remember you giving consent and there's nothing you can do to prove it. And you don't want to get caught in this type of weird situation anyways. Waiting a long time to email people is egregious. Even if you just wait a week, people will forget who you are. Sometimes, and this might have happened to you, when people join my following, something goes wrong in the process, you get the first or second email and then you don't hear from me again for a week. Guess what? People don't like that. And if you don't get that first email for a week, oh boy, it's like I don't exist anymore. Now, the thing we're afraid of, how do we know that someone is annoyed by your email? There's two measures. Number one, most common measure is unsubscription. It doesn't matter what you email. Very rarely does someone click the unsubscribe button because of the actual content of the email they just read. 99% of the time, it's this person's no longer relevant for me, unsubscribe. If they're very early in the relationship, if it's the first week, they go, I got my free gift, I read the PDF, unsubscribe. And those are people who are usually trying to maintain inbox hygiene. They're not upset with you. They just don't want anyone in their inbox. That's absolutely fine. Sorry guys, I have a little bit of hiccups if you heard that. So if someone joins your list, downloads a free gift, and then unsubscribes, your content does not matter. They did not unsubscribe because of your content. Now, it's possible that they went through your free gift and thought it was garbage, but that is extremely unlikely. Out of 1,000 first week unsubscriptions, maybe one of the people unsubscribed because of the quality of your free gift. Maybe. I've never had that. I've never had anyone actually say to me that's why they so I've never had confirmation of that, but that can be part of the problem. When someone unsubscribes and they've been on your list for a while, they don't read your email and go, you know what? This email sucks. Unsubscribe. I hate Jonathan. He's the worst. No. They're usually thinking, I'm not into this anymore. If you're sending out emails about starting your own business, at a certain point, the people on your list will either have succeeded or quit. They're done. They're not trying anymore. Maybe they got a promotion. Maybe they got married. They had a life transition. They moved in another direction, or a program from you or someone else worked and they're totally focused on that. They're no longer at that level. So I used to be on all these mailing lists for beginners when I was starting out, because I was a beginner 10 years ago. I was on every beginner list I could get. I was trying to learn. I was going through courses, buying content, and I ended up on all of these beginner lists. So what do? I unsubscribed when I moved to the next level because they weren't for me. If you're super advanced, a lot of my content is more targeted towards beginners, so you probably don't want to get a lot of my email. There are certain people who join my mailing list, email me about asking about my high-level coaching, and then unsubscribe because the emails don't fit them, and that's absolutely fine. I'm the same way. And again, sometimes we just put people on the wrong list. I actually have a couple of big JV partners that have added me to their customer list, and it's really annoying. And I unsubscribe from those, so they're seeing an unsubscription. They can't tell who it is. They can't tell. You can't really tell on an individual level which individual unsubscribed unless you actively try and figure it out and you search like by email address to see if they're still active, which nobody does. So if you want to unsubscribe from my list, I'll never know. It's totally fine. Don't feel like it's a social obligation. What we're doing is attaching how we feel about personal emails to a business and automated email system. We don't need to do that. Unsubscriptions are a sign that you're doing your job right. You know, they say if no one's talking bad about you, you're not doing enough. If no one's complaining, you're not selling hard enough. And if no one's unsubscribing, you're not emailing often enough. There's this fear, if I don't send an email, no one can unsubscribe. That's true. And also, no one can read your email or buy anything from you. The number one way to get no unsubscriptions is what this guy last year told me about. Just don't email anyone for 8 years. His list has not had a single unsubscription in 8 years. Now, the odds are 60% of those emails are inactive. We all change our emails over time. But he doesn't know. And it's that lack of knowing that some people are striving for. It's like, I'd rather not know how many people don't want to be on my list than email and find out. But the good news is, once everyone unsubscribes doesn't want to be there, what you have left is people that really want to hear your message. You're not losing people that would have liked you if you hadn't emailed them. You're losing people that you just aren't a match for. I would say that between 15 and 25% of people who end up on my list are not the right fit. They're just not. Someone new joins, they see a little bit of content, they go, oh, you know what, this isn't what I'm interested in. This isn't the right person for me. They might be interested in the type of products I'm creating and what I'm teaching about. They don't like my voice. They don't like my style. They don't want to hear from someone on an island. They want to hear from someone in an office. They don't want to hear the sounds of my tropical garden. What they want to hear is the sound of silence from someone who's recording in a perfectly soundproof studio. And that's absolutely fine. The beauty of the universe is there's lots of different people out there. Unsubscriptions are a sign that you're emailing frequently enough. The second way that people can let you know they're unhappy with your emails is if they click that spam button, and that's what you want to avoid. Unsubscriptions do not affect your account, but if you get a lot of spam complaints, an email service can shut down your account. That's the main way to get your account shut down. I had problems like with that before. My account got frozen once because I don't even know how this happened, but somehow someone, new people for 1 week, instead of getting added to one of my lists, got added to 13. And so they were getting more than a dozen emails a day. They should have complained. It's not my fault. It was a problem inside my system, but it happens, right? And that's what you want to avoid. And that's when you start to get in trouble, and you have to do everything you can to prevent that from happening. The danger and the way you get spam complaints is not if you send annoying emails, it's if you're forgotten. Spam means someone sent me commercial emails. I don't know who they are. They don't have my permission. That's really what a spam complaint. Now, all the spam laws and Can Spam Act and GDPR, all of those were designed to prevent black hat spammers from operating. Guess what? Doesn't affect them at all. I get spam and phishing emails every single day. I can't tell you how many fake emails from PayPal I get. It's perpetual. And my email providers are never smart enough to catch all of those. Here's how you know. If it says it's from a PayPal email address and then I check the actual reply to email address and it's not PayPal, then I know it's fake and it's masked. Those should not be getting through to me. And yet, even with all of those filters, you still have to manually check. So all of those spam laws are basically a total failure. The amount of spam going out has increased, not decreased, in the last 20 years. The rules are that if every email you send out has to have an unsubscribe link in it. Now, what I hate is people that I have to click that link and then go answer some questions to unsubscribe. I don't like that at all. It's supposed to be a one-click thing. If you click unsubscribe from me, it sends you to a page that says, did you mean to click that? And you click yes, and you're done. I don't have to answer any more questions. You don't have to log in. One thing I hate, and this is definitely against spam rules, is they say you have to log into your account to change your email preferences. That's absolutely not allowed. So anyone who does that is an absolute violation. It has to be one click. And it's also, some people reply to my emails sometimes and say the word unsubscribe. And I'm like, there's a link in the bottom of every single email that says, if you want off this list, if you didn't mean to get emailed by me, you can unsubscribe. But what can happen is if someone doesn't know who you are, they will mistakenly think it's spam. If I joined your mailing list 8 years ago and you email me today for the first time, I go, I don't know who you are, spam. That's when people hit the spam button. I hit it very rarely, but sometimes people are doing things they shouldn't be doing. And I want them to stop emailing me. We've all had that. I get that too. Don't think that I'm immune to it. So you're far more likely to get someone hitting the spam button because they don't know who you are than because you're emailing too frequently. Remember, the core of our entire business model, the centerpiece of our entire strategy is give value. Send people useful content. If you're doing that, even when people are annoyed, they're not going to escalate from unsubscribe to a spam. So normally the way that works is someone hits unsubscribe and then it says, okay, you've been removed from that list. What was your reason? And different services do this in different ways. Sometimes they have like a checkbox. They go, I don't want to see this content anymore. I never signed up for this mailing list. This content is not what I thought it was going to be. Some of those are spam complaints and some of those are not. So if you say, oh, I just don't want to receive this content anymore, that's just a regular unsubscribe. If you say, I never signed up for this content, or they're not sending me what they said they would, those are spam complaints. That's when you can get the person in trouble. Please don't do that to people. That's putting bad karma in the world if they're not doing it. So now you understand how that system works. You want to make sure you don't punish people who haven't committed the actual crime. But if someone doesn't remember who you are, they'll assume it was spam. So you're actually going to get a much worse reaction if you mail infrequently. There's nothing worse than being forgotten. I used to know this girl who was obsessed with one of my friends, and she said, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And she was like, as long as he hates me, there's still a spark of love there. I was like, wow, you should be in a thriller because you would be an amazing bad guy because that kind of thing is intense. So that we don't avoid indifference. If people don't remember who you are, that's when they'll click it. They'll go, I don't know who this person is. I don't remember them. So if you're not emailing frequently enough, it could be someone that likes you. And it doesn't mean anything. I get emails all the time from people and I go, I don't know who this is. Memory's a fickle beast. The things that are important for me, I remember stuff about my family and my kids. Email stuff, no. If you email me and you're a customer, I probably won't remember who you are until I open the email. Sometimes people send me an email and they erase the from thread, like they erase the reply thread, so I can't see what we talked about in the past and I have to reopen the older emails to refresh my memory. I got one of those emails this morning. I checked a lot of emails today, so I had a lot of good experiences, and I was going, what was this person talking to me about? Because they referenced a previous conversation and they started something completely new. They were sending me a copy of their book cover and their book description to look at and give them some feedback, which I'm always happy to do, but then they referenced another conversation, like, what did we talk about before? And I didn't remember. It's nothing personal. It has nothing to do with how much I like or don't like the person, how interested or not interested I am in what they have to say. I just can't remember thousands of email threads. I don't have a very strong memory in certain areas. And I don't know if that's just me. Maybe it just means that I'm aging. But even people I'm actively emailing back and forth with. Someone emailed me last week and they said, Jonathan, I don't know if you remember me. We talked about this. We did a phone call about that. And I immediately remembered who they were because they gave me the reference. That was the kind of email you got to send me. She hadn't emailed me in maybe a year or maybe even a couple of years. But I immediately knew who it was because she gave me the information that I needed. And that was really, really helpful. So how long and how frequently should you email? That's the question we started off with. If you're calling it a newsletter, that's already a flag that you're probably not sending it out enough. Some people send out one once a month. And I was talking about this podcast that I was looking at. They said, oh, if you pay $2 a month, you can get one email from us a month. I was like, nah, that sounds backwards. Why would I pay for you to email me? I'd rather pay for people to not email me. Once a month means you're going to get a lot of who is this messages. In order to avoid virtual refunds of someone unsubscribing and spam complaints, you'll have to design a newsletter that's visually memorable. If you join a new autoresponder service, most of the ones out there have outdated modalities. They'll say, oh, look, we have tons of templates for your newsletter. So you can send out an email that has like these 4 sections and this part's in blue and this part's in red. And the colors look nice to each other, but it looks like a flyer. What they've done is designed your newsletter in a way that it looks like a spam or a junk mail letter that someone would get in the actual mail. When people get those, it feels very impersonal. They don't click on anything. It actually kills the response rate instead of boosting it because people look at it and go, this is just from a business? I thought this was a person, and they're not interested in that. I don't really like hearing from businesses either. I hear from certain software teams all the time. You know who they email me from? CEO. CEO didn't write that email. Someone on the team did, but they send it from a person and they don't send it in that newsletter format, which we're moving away from. So if you're going to send monthly, you have to send an ugly newsletter email so people remember the colors. They go, oh, I've seen this before. But now all you've done is taken one problem and compounded it with another. Emailing once a month is a waste of time. 12 emails a year, you're just not. Absolutely not going to work. If you're weekly, you can send a newsletter or digest. This is something I've gotten a few emails about across my entire career. Probably 3 times people have asked for a weekly email. A weekly email would be a weekend recap. Here's the things I emailed you about over the past 5 days. Here's the 5 blog posts we put out. I'm actually on, I don't know if I still am, but for a long time I was. I don't know if I unsubscribed, but for a while, I was on this email list from a really big blog that I follow to be Better Blogger, and they put out 1 post a day, and they'll send you an email about that post. And then on Saturday, they'll send you an email. Here's the 5 posts that came out this week with a short blurb about each one and a link to each one. A lot of people, that digest email is what they want. That's a week in review, or that's a here's what you missed, and that's great. It's really useful because you can just go through and go, okay, I didn't have time during the week, or one of those was interesting and I didn't click on it, and you can jump back in. I don't do one of those. Sometimes people ask for that, and it makes sense. The way I email, that's not the right fit. And also, we don't put out 5 blog posts a week. I wish we had that level of content. We're trying to put out more and more and more content, continually trying to improve the frequency at which I put out content across all the channels. But it's insanely hard. The barriers to publishing content in a timely fashion are high. Even with my team, I'm continually running into these small barriers. We have to do all these fixes, and we're trying to do massive batches of content. So we're just trying to write 20 blog posts in advance, get them all queued up so the content is just going out, and we just hit so many barriers that you wouldn't believe. It's very frustrating for me because I have content that I'm trying to get out the door, and we're always trying to fix that. So get to the level where we're releasing the content as often as I want. It's way ahead up the tree in importance above sending out a digest email. Even though a digest email, I get it. I could see people saying, hey, move me to the digest email, and I do. We send out a digest email once a week. We're just not there yet. It's another advancement. Some people, their business model, they start with that right away. I just have never done that, but I totally understand that. And so if you're doing really content heavy and not doing a lot of marketing, it can make sense to only send a digest email, but more likely you should send a daily email and a digest. And then people can say, oh, I only want to be on the digest email list. And you go, no problem, I'll switch you to that. Eventually I'll have that technology, I assume, I hope. If you're in business, then you need to be sending an email every day. Sending an email every day lets people know who you are. You will never be forgotten. People who like you and don't get an email for a couple of days will email you and say, Jonathan, I haven't heard from you in a while. Are you okay? I've gotten that email before, multiple times. Usually it's because something's gone wrong. Sometimes people unsubscribe on accident. I've gotten that email too. Jonathan, I unsubscribed. I didn't mean to. Please add me back to the list. It wasn't my fault. I want to hear what you have to say. Jonathan, you haven't emailed me in a couple of days. Is everything okay? Are you hurt? And it's usually a software thing and not a me thing. An email went out, but just they weren't included on the distribution group. It happens. But if you're in business, your goal, what drives you, is not avoiding annoying people. We want to maintain that balance, and that's done by providing good content. but we want to generate revenue. What I've noticed is that an email can get anywhere from 10 to 30% open rate, and you send another email on a similar topic the next day, a different 10 to 30% of the people open it. You might have to send the same information 10 times in a row for everyone on your following to see or open that email. It's not because people aren't interested in the content. And part of this is that we activate this different part of our brains when we're the ones sending emails than when we're receiving them. But think about how you act when you get an email from me. You don't open all of them. Nobody does. What you do is you look at the subject, you go, oh, that's interesting. I don't have time for that right now. And you move on, and then you see the topic again the next day and the next day and the next day. And maybe on day 4, you see my email at the right confluence of times. Remember we talked about how sometimes people are annoyed by things happening in their lives, and so they hit the spam complaint. In the same way, we get that moment where suddenly someone's not distracted and they can actually read what we're talking about. This happens to me, and so I know it happens to everyone else. Sometimes we're distracted by life, and we were really interested in that topic. We wanted to buy that product, and we forgot about it because something else happened. Right as they were reading your email, they got an email from someone in their family, and there was a family emergency, or the phone rang. And so now that email doesn't have that little circle next to it that says new, and they forget that they didn't reply, or that they didn't click the link, or they didn't follow through. And that's totally fine. That happened. That's why we email daily, not because we think every single person's going to open every email every day. They're not. I don't expect that at all. I know because I can track. When I check my email stuff and statistics and I track like a link click, I track total link clicks and uniques. Total link clicks is how many times did someone click this link or visit this page. Uniques is how many times or how many different individual people did the same action. And that's the real measure. That tells you how many different people did it. So let's say you have 100 clicks to a page, but only 10 uniques. That means each person clicked your link 10 times. The 10 people that liked it were super interested. What I often find is that it's around 80% uniques for me. So it's going to be 100 clicks total and then 80 unique clicks. So about 20 people will click the link twice because they look at it, they go, oh, I don't have time, I'll look at this later. It's totally fine. We're not trying to judge people's behavior, we're trying to understand it. Because then from a place of understanding, we can become better marketers and better messengers and have a better relationship with our following. So your goal is to email people a lot of quality content every single day so that when it's the right content for them, they'll click on it. As long as they're sending good content, people don't get annoyed. If you only send commercial content, if you never send anything of interest or value or usefulness to people, or if the things you promote don't match them. For example, if all of your emails are about falling in love and someone already has fallen in love, then they're going to jump off your list because they're not in your bucket anymore. They don't match your category. They're not who you're talking to anyways. If you send out daily emails, if you provide people with good content, if you're careful in how you manage your relationships, if you reply to the individual emails that people send you when they reply to your messages, and you cultivate your email list, you can build a really powerful business with a powerful asset that generates revenue for a very long time.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Serve No Master. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. And we'll be back next Tuesday with more tips and tactics on how to escape that rat race. Head over to servenomaster.com/podcasts now for your chance to win a free copy of Jonathan's bestseller, Serve No Master. All you have to do is leave a 5-star review of this podcast. See you Tuesday.
Learn how to build a mailing list faster than you ever thought possible. Grab my free guide at servenomaster.com/turbo before it disappears.